This is a fun place. I've been privileged to be part of the community advisory board for UVU for a while, and it's great to see what's happening here. When I first came to Utah County, it was like 15 years ago, and this university has undergone some massive changes since then, and it's been pretty exciting. So today was asked to come and speak, and I was told that I have to tell stories about myself, which generally makes me profoundly uncomfortable. So instead, I'm going to try and mostly talk about things that I think are interesting and that I hope are interesting to you guys as well. I want to talk specifically about choices and how the choices that we make and the choices that you all can make impact our success in life as well as in business and entrepreneurship. So Jive Communications, I talk briefly about what we do. Jive Communications provides business phone service in the cloud, but it's not your grandfather's business phone system. It's a phone service that includes all sorts of value-added features from hold music and auto attendance and menus and messages to apps that are on your mobile device, integration with your business systems. Our customers include educational institutions. We have a number of colleges. We're still working on UVU, as well as schools and libraries, state and local governments, businesses, all throughout the world now, really. We make business communication easier, richer, and more effective. One of the things that I do today, my main role today is really kind of on the chief product officer side, so I'm responsible for all of our product development. That's the people deciding what we're going to build and how it should look, as well as the engineers that are actually building it and doing the awesome things that drive all the solutions that we see. I'm also responsible for our network operations and data centers and peers and all this type of stuff, and it is a ton of fun. I love my role at the company. One of the things that really gets us going is solving problems for customers and identifying pain and things that are difficult in a telecommunications environment for our customers, and then making them suck a lot less. One of the things we're tackling right now, you guys don't know this yet, but if you go into business, you're going to spend like 25% of your life on conference calls. And conference calls are super irritating today. If you want to join a conference call, just a quick show of hands, who's been invited to and had to dial into a conference call recently? Okay, so pretty good group here. So typically the host will send you an email, and it has the number, and then you've got to enter the room number, and then you've got to enter the PIN, and then maybe you have to say your name, and then you have to press pound, and it's just this big, drawn-out, difficult thing. And it's that hard for the host, too. It's very difficult. It's a painful process. One of the products we just released, this is super fun, is a visual interface to this type of audio conference. So now if I'm the host of a conference bridge, I can send you a link. You click on that link, and you either join the conference bridge right from your browser, or you put in your telephone number, and the system will call you, which is really nice if you're driving and trying not to die while you put in all those different numbers. But the cool thing from a host standpoint, too, I now have a visual interface. I can see who's on the call. I can see people as they join, so I don't have to constantly ask, hey, was that Brad? Was that Sterling? Oh, no, this is John. Oh, okay, well, I guess we're waiting for Brad still. You can just jump right into your conference. If someone's dog is barking really noisily in the background, I can just, that little dot in the top left kind of shows that they're talking, they're making noise. I can just, mute them from my side and tell them to get their dog under control. It helps businesses manage that collaborative experience, manage that conference much better. And I share that with you because it's an example of what we can do with technology. When we take technology and product and we work with customers and users of that product, we identify pain points. We identify places where things could be much smoother. And then the fun part of roles like mine is be able to change reality to solve whatever pain or whatever problem we're addressing. We do things like this all the time. This is just one that I thought I'd share. We released this officially 4 weeks ago, and it's done pretty well. We're excited about it. Okay, so Jive Communications, if we look at where we're at today, we've grown a lot as a company. We've done some pretty cool things. We're in a lot of places. We have a Jive Jeep that we don't actually drive. This Jeep's kind of a prima donna. Anyone know Pimp My Ride? I know I'm dating myself. Okay, some of you older folks are like, yeah, Pimp My Ride. My dad watched that. So Pimp My Ride, the group that does that was West Coast Customs. This is actually a Pimp My Ride Jeep. It was kind of fun. We were featured in one of their episodes, and it's pretty slick. We actually take it to trade shows, and it's kind of fun because if anyone's been to a trade show, they're super boring, and all the booths kind of look the same. And then instead of some booth, there's like the Jive Jeep bumping music and with phones and speakers and video screens, and it's pretty fun. We also have a Jive race car. If there's any NASCAR fans here, we're Jive 5. We have in the Infinity Truck Series, our driver, I don't think we've won anything, but we did get in a fight that was published on ESPN because some other driver ran us off and our car caught on fire. That was kind of cool. But it's fun to see the company grow, and you do things like this, not because they're fun and cool, but because it gives you something to talk about with customers, and it enables you to network into and have more meaningful conversations with customers as they're thinking about and evaluating the product. But really, we have almost 500 employees. We're spread out in multiple offices in the US and Canada. I think something like 11 offices today. We have done 6 acquisitions in the last few years that I've been able to be a part of, super fun. And today, Jive is one of the largest privately held unified communication companies on the planet. We're having a ton of fun with that. And this is our office in Orem. The lighting was really good. I promise it doesn't actually look that good all the time. So me personally, I'm the oldest of 4. And that's my dad. Back then, aviator glasses were cool, and then they were not cool, and now apparently they're cool again. But that's my dad up there, and I'm there on the right. Oldest of 4, had great opportunities. Parents were awesome. Focus on education. Was read to. We did games and music, and just pretty fortunate, pretty blessed life. This is my wife. I actually found this picture where I was looking for something else. She was supposed to be here, but my little girl is sick. And I was hoping to kind of embarrass her with this, but she's still totally awesome. That's the real secret to being a successful entrepreneur, is just having a spouse who's awesome and can be a sugar mama for you in the first couple years. Today I've got 4 awesome kids. I've got a dog that's pretty okay. And this is one of the few pictures we have where no one is screaming. And we're happy about that. All of a sudden, I'm in my mid-30s. I've had a rich, varied, and honestly pretty awesome life. A lot of that is because of things that are outside of my control. Blessed with a great family and great educational opportunities and youth leaders and scout leaders and just great things in my life. But part of it, just as with all of you, is the choices that I've made, the choices that have led to a more rich and effective and varied life. And so I wanted to share kind of 3 of those with you guys today. The first one is choosing to embrace challenge. The second is choosing to be purposeful and present. And the third is choosing to never stop learning. These ideas are kind of interrelated, and I was proud of myself. I made this graphic all by myself without any help from marketing. So don't judge. But these ideas are kind of interrelated. They're about kind of taking control of your life and deciding what you want and then doing the things you can do to make it happen. The first one I want to talk about is this idea of embracing challenges, choosing to embrace challenges. I think by being in this entrepreneurship lecture series and by having some interest in entrepreneurship, you kind of got to be aware of what you're signing yourself up for. When we first started the company, there were 4 partners, and then very shortly after 6. I was like 25 pounds heavier there in that blue polo shirt on the left. And we started it was 10 years ago last month. And when we started the company, some of us had been working together at a software company where we did consulting projects. And consulting business, that's a difficult business because you only get paid for the projects, and then in between projects, you kind of live off what you did, and it's difficult to make it all line up. And we had spun out most of our developers into a project with a customer. And so we're looking around, trying to decide what we were going to do next. Most of us were kind of clueless. I had just joined that company maybe 8 months before as an intern, and so it was great, happy to be there. And we looked around, and as we're trying to decide what to do next, we at that time, we had needed a phone system for our business. We had grown to about 20 employees, and we just had the cheap phone that you buy at Walmart, and it wasn't getting it done for us anymore. The hold music on it was this MIDI file that was like old school 8-bit Mario, only not quite that cool. And so we had just outgrown it. And so we priced it out. They were $10,000, which for our little software company was a huge, insane amount of money. And so we decided to just kind of build one ourselves. So we downloaded some open source software. We bought some phones off of eBay. We put it all together, and we had a phone system. We were pretty proud of ourselves. Some of our consulting clients asked us to deploy the same thing for them because they also hated their phone systems or needed one. We had also just been gouged. I apologize if there's anyone here from CenturyLink here, but we had been totally gouged by CenturyLink on some international calls, and so we were kind of mad at them and wanted to kick them out of our business as well. And so the light bulb kind of went off, that here's a subscription recurring service that if we continue to provide a good quality service and take care of our customers and meet their needs, they'll continue to send us checks. And that was a pretty powerful idea for us. And so we embraced it. We started Jive Communications. Initially, it was some software developers and me. So if it wasn't writing software, I was doing it. I was selling it, I was supporting it, I was installing it. If the customer didn't pay their bill, I went and yelled at them, which those things are not very compatible, by the way. It's tough to sell someone and then 2 months later be like, hey, where the crap's your payment? They tend not to like you. So it was pretty challenging, and I had no experience in really any of that. And we were kind of making it up as we went along. And so in that process, there's kind of two broad categories of challenge that you have to know are coming. And you have to be prepared to embrace and get to a point in your mind where you're actually excited and energized by that opportunity. The first challenge is just the sheer volume of work that has to be done. You got to decide that you're willing to put in the time. And you have to be at a place in your life and in your family and whatever your circumstances are where you're willing to just work long and hard. Sometimes, if it's a 12 or 14 or 16-hour day, it's tiring, it's challenging, but you just got to kind of push through it. Initially, when in the first couple years, as I was kind of running everything that wasn't development, our invoicing process was that I would download this file from our system. I would then do a bunch of math in Excel, and then I would try and put all of those files into QuickBooks and then send that out. And as we were growing, it got to be where on the first of every month, that was like 12 hours of my day nonstop, was just putting this stupid stuff in. And I'd be up until 2 a.m. sitting at our kitchen table just pounding out invoices so that we could get paid. We were bootstrapped. We had no venture capital funding, and we got it done with a combination of not paying ourselves and just providing service to our customers and billing them and getting paid. The first time when we hired someone, we then brought on a guy by the name of Sam Simmons, who's still with the company. He's now our VP of Finance, actually. And he took that over. My wife was so happy that she made him this big plate of brownies and dropped off the next day and said, hey, thanks for giving me my husband back one night a week. But you have to be willing to embrace that work. I actually asked my wife what she would share, and she said, well, hey, as the spouse of an entrepreneur, you just need to know that it's really hard. And it pays off, and it's rewarding, and at the end of the day, it's worth it. But you got to know that it's just hard, and it takes a toll on your relationships. You have to be prepared to support and move forward on it. So that's that first challenge, just the sheer volume of work and effort that is required to get these things off the ground. The second challenge is more mental. It's this idea that in many cases, you don't actually know how to do these things that you're being asked to do. I was responsible for finance. I was responsible for HR. I was responsible for legal, for our regulatory and telecom compliance. I had no idea what the crap I was doing in any of those fields. And that's really challenging. And you've got to be okay recognizing what you don't know, but not being paralyzed by that, but embracing it and be willing to go push through it and figure out what it is that you need to do. Part of that comes with embracing uncertainty and embracing ambiguity. When you're doing challenging things, kind of by definition, there's going to be a bunch of stuff you don't know. If there's no uncertainty and there's no ambiguity, there's generally no opportunity either, because anyone could do what you're doing. It's totally clear. And so, again, you've got to be willing to embrace that and accept that. And it's mostly a mental game. You got to wake up in the morning and kind of gear yourself up that, look, today I'm going to get beat up a little bit because I don't know all these things. But it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready to embrace it. In my personal life, I have never really been that athletic. I grew up asthmatic, and I was the kid reading books, that nerd reading books at the picnic table during lunch. But in my freshman year of high school, I decided that was enough, so I joined wrestling. I didn't win a single match, but I was no longer totally out of shape. But then I went to college and started business, and it all falls off the cliff there. But a couple years ago, decided, well, hey, let's do something hard. I'm gonna start training for half marathons. And it was something that I'd never really done. I'd never been a runner. How many of you are not in a long-term committed relationship? Okay, so here's a pro tip. If you're wanting to impress someone, you should pick something that you're actually good at. When I was first dating my wife, I think our third date, I knew she liked running, and so I asked her if she wanted to go on a run with me, and that was a huge mistake because we got, I think, a quarter mile, and I wanted to pass out and die, and she's ready to keep going, so I kind of limped back to her apartment, and she met me there. It ended up being all right. She was actually kind of impressed that I was willing to do something that was important to her, even though I sucked at it. But just, pro tip, trying to impress someone, pick something you're actually good at. But did a bunch of training here, and this, was able to complete a couple half marathons, and I'm just about to start training for a third. May go for a full marathon this year, and it's been fun to take something that, for me, personally, is very physically challenging. I'm not naturally a runner. My wife can go 4 years without running and then run 4 miles and thinks it's great and is ready to do it again tomorrow. I take 3 months off, and I get winded going up the stairs. So it's just not my thing, but pushing through that challenge in my personal life is profoundly satisfying, and it echoes some of the satisfaction I get from pushing through those challenges in a business setting. We talk a lot in our family about doing hard things, and that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's rewarding, it's awesome, but it's hard. So you got to be willing to embrace those challenges. The next choice is choosing to be present and purposeful. What I mean by that is almost as simple as choosing to pay attention, to be present, to be aware, to be intentional about your life. It's kind of the opposite of autopilot. In many cases, we get in a groove and it's working for us, and so we just want to continue down that groove and turn our brains off a little. Along the way, I think I had 5 different declared majors as I was graduating. I don't know if UVU does this, but at BYU, if you get to 220 credit hours, they call you up and they say, look, you got 1 semester to pick something and get the heck out of here, or we're going to graduate you with general studies. So that's kind of how I, frankly, ended up with entrepreneurship, because I was only 4 classes away at that point. But one of the stops along the way was psychology. It's a fascinating discipline. I love it. But there's this idea of heuristics and mental models, where it's kind of how we deal with life. It's how we deal with this overabundant stimuli. There's way too much happening all around us for our brains to actually process. And so we have heuristics and mental shortcuts. And those are great. They help us function in this complex world, but they're also really dangerous if you let yourself get on autopilot and you don't change as your underlying reality changes. Early on, this was probably 4 or 5 years into Jive, we decided to focus on the K-12, the education market. John Pope, our current CEO, at the time he was running sales, and he was cold calling, and he contacted a school and said, hey, are you interested in what we do? Kind of explained it. The school said, yeah, that sounds awesome. Do you guys support E-rate? And he said, well, I'll get back to you. He calls me up and says, hey, Mike, do we support E-rate? And I said, I don't even know what that is. So we figured it out. Turns out it is a federal subsidy program so that schools and libraries can get discounted access to technology. And it's funded kind of by us as telecom subscribers. Pretty cool program. It helps schools that otherwise would probably have a tough time upgrading wireless and computers and network and everything to have cool technology. So we figured it out, and we figured out how to participate in the E-rate program, and we had some early success there. We went out, we were trying to win some deals. There was one guy here local that was just kicking our butt at every opportunity, so we went and hired him. We called it our pirate operation. We pirated him from our competitor, and pretty quickly we had a very flourishing K-12 operation. We were posting close to 100% annual growth in K-12. We were, by about a factor of 10, the largest provider nationwide of unified communications to schools and libraries. So we're doing pretty good, and it's continuing to grow. But then we let autopilot engage a little much, and we kind of turned our brains off, and the market started changing. And this happens sometimes. If you're not paying attention, the market change comes and slaps you upside the head. So the federal program that was subsidizing these had a fundamental shift to de-emphasize voice, which we care deeply about, and emphasize other things. At the same time, we were moving with larger customers that were more and more demanding, and we didn't adjust the model. We just kept going with what had worked for us in the past on autopilot. We weren't present in that market and in those changing conditions. And so instead of having a 100% growth year, we actually had a year where we were pretty flat. And that's a big shock. When you're a company like our company is used to 80, 90, 100% annual growth. And then to have a year where, wait, what happened? We're treading water in this market. And I'm happy to say that we feel like we've addressed that and we're moving forward. But we had to re-engage and be present in the market and learn from it and understand what was happening so that we could be responsive to the needs of this particular market. Jackie Robinson says, life is not a spectator sport. And I believe that. I think if you want to have a deep and rich life, it's the same as if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. You have to be present, you have to be engaged, you have to bring your best mental energy to bear on the problems and the opportunities that are in front of you. Otherwise, you're just going to miss out on stuff, and you might skim through, and you might have some success, but you're always going to be wondering if you would have got more, if you just would have been a little more engaged or tried a little harder. So that's the second choice, is to choose to be present and to be purposeful in your own life. And this last one is choosing to never stop learning. Some of you are familiar with this. Anyone familiar with Khan Academy? Okay, it's because I'm guessing that there's not a lot of small children here, because Khan Academy is awesome for children because it lets them do something on an iPad, which they really like, but you're learning at the same time so you don't feel guilty about it. It's perfect. But Khan Academy kind of embraces this idea espoused by Carol Dweck around a growth mindset. It says, sorry, this font is really small. Our studies show that teaching people to have a growth mindset, which encourages a focus on effort rather than intelligence or talent, helps make them into high achievers in school and in life. The idea that your capabilities and what you can do is not a fixed, immutable thing, but it's a growing thing, and that you can control and you can improve your talents and your capabilities through effort and through focusing on it. So it's this growth mindset and being constantly learning. In school, I loved school. I told you I had 5 or 6 declared majors, bounced all around, but it was an amazing, diverse set of educational experiences. And I hope y'all are doing the same thing, that you're looking for those. That you're not looking for the easy classes with the least homework. You got this narrow window, and I know sometimes it feels like you're going to be in college forever, but you're not. Before you know it, you're going to be out of here, and you're going to have to squeeze in learning. You're going to have to make learning happen. Right now, that's your whole gig, is to learn and to embrace what other people have to share and teach you. So don't just look for the easiest classes with the least amount of homework, but look to learn challenging things from brilliant people who love their disciplines and love what they do. And then go look for that outside the classroom as well. I hope you're looking at internships. I hope you have part-time jobs. You learn skills there that are very, very difficult to learn other places. You learn about how do you deal with scarce resources? You learn about how do you come to agreement with a diverse group of people with different life experiences and opinions. You learn about how do you prioritize things when you have an external force like customers or a boss pushing on you. Go get an internship, go get a part-time job, and embrace that as part of your educational learning. In business, one of the things that often happens, going back to this idea of heuristics, is that you build a model for something. You have this mental model that explains how you think the world works. And it might be something like in customer care. As you're taking care of your customers, well, if I do this set of things, then my customer will be happy with me. You've built a causal model in your mind. And those are great. Those are super useful. But as with the example with the education sales and Jive's experience in education, you have to be constantly learning and updating that model with new information. It's one of the things that I believe strongly has helped me to be successful as an entrepreneur, is that you're always learning. You're always looking for new data and new information that you can feed into that mental model that is helping you to predict reality. You're trying to predict the future with this mental model. And the more information you have in the model and the better you're processing that, the more accurate you're going to be when you're attempting to predict the future. And in business, that's pretty important because you're taking real dollars and you're making real investments with those dollars based on what you think is going to happen 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, 2, 3 years down the road. So the better your model, the better the return you're going to get on those investments, and the more successful you'll be. Your model is only as good as the up-to-date information that you're constantly learning and obtaining and putting into the model. So you want to embrace those challenges, embrace the appropriate amount of risk, but always continue to be learning. This growth mindset is important as well, I think, as you interact with people in your business. One of the things you'll probably find if you're starting a business from scratch is that you're not going to go out and hire the guy or gal who's done a certain role for 15 years and is an industry expert. Frankly, you can't afford them, and even if you could, they probably don't want to work with some untested entrepreneur anyway. So you're going to be stuck with people kind of like you who are willing to work hard and figure something out and grow with something. It's important to give those people the opportunity to expand, to assume a growth mindset with them. Sometimes we can fall into a trap where that first impression of someone sticks forever. And when we first met this person, they were a junior in college and they were a part-time intern, and that's how they always are in my mind. And you don't give them opportunities to grow and develop. So be aware of that as you're building teams and as you're working with people that come into your business. Expect them to be growth-minded as well. Expect them to be embracing challenges and being present and purposeful and always be learning and expanding their capabilities. So again, those 3 choices are choosing to embrace challenge, choosing to be present and purposeful, and choosing to never stop learning. It's hard. It's a lot easier to just kind of coast through life and not force yourself to do hard things. But I think that is a key differentiator between successful entrepreneurs and people who are going to struggle, is making these types of choices and doing it consciously and purposefully. I love this quote by Henry David Thoreau. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, and not when I came to die, discovered that I had not lived. Life can be profoundly satisfying. Being an entrepreneur can be profoundly satisfying. There's so many opportunities for growth and development and experience that you'll have. Just embrace it and just love it, and you'll do well. That's all I have. Thank you.